This NASCAR 2025 driver changes and expectations edition of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with our promo code RACESGPN to get a 50% deposit bonus of up to $1,000. We're also brought to you by Rhythm, the leader in data-driven picks and props. Get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITH.
Driver, start your engine!
Strap in and pull those belts up tight as the Sports Gambling Podcast Network presents the NASCAR Gambling Podcast.
I'll wreck my mom to win a championship. I'll wreck your mom to win a championship.
With all the news and the best bets for your NASCAR weekend.
It refrains me from not beating the out of you right now because you asked me stupid questions. But since I'm on probation, I suppose that's improper to say as well. If you could talk about racing things, we could talk about racing things.
Now, here are your hosts, Rod Villagomez and Cody Zeeb.
It's like deja vu all over again. If you're watching on YouTube, because you just saw our happy little faces, it's the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He's Cody Zeeb. I'm Rod Villagomez. And if you listen on audio, you probably don't even know what I'm talking about. And yet, probably listen to this back to back. So gotta love you all for that.
Yeah, absolutely. You just got done with some IndyCar talk. If you haven't listened to that one, you can listen to this one first, but go back and listen to that one as well. It was a lot of fun, but yeah, now we're here to talk some more NASCAR out.
Yes, indeed, we are. I mean, we've touched on this topic quite a bit over the course of the offseason, just kind of going over the odds, going over the win totals, but we've never really dug into what some of these driver changes for this upcoming season have meant. And believe me, there's plenty of them to discuss, which is why this is a multi-parter. We're going to break this up into a couple episodes because we figure that it's good to kind of dissect what these drivers are going to be going through, not just from an odds perspective, but I mean, obviously it'll help you build your case for what you bet on them. But yeah, what their season's going to look like in 2025.
Yeah, it's good to get, reacquainted or in this case, I guess, acquainted with where a driver's going to be, which car he's going to be in, because you're going to look on the track and you've been watching Martin Truex Jr. in the 19 car for how many years in a row now. And it's going to look like a similar car, Bass Pro Shops half the time, but it's not Martin Truex Jr. anymore. So who's in that car? What do we expect from them is what we need to look at. Some are minor changes, guys like Todd Gilliland staying with the same team, but driving a different number, a number that we've been used to seeing Michael McDowell in. So let's get reacquainted. And also, what do we think Chase Briscoe can do in that 19 car replacing Truex? What do we think, from all of these guys? What do we think they can accomplish? Which, of course, is going to play into 38 races of betting on these guys. And how will they be able to find ways to bet on them, bet against them, whatever it is. So, yeah, very excited for that.
Indeed. And yeah, again, this is more of an opportunity for us to just kind of take a deep breath and look through that. And for me to learn how to title the episodes of shows, because what can we count on Chase Briscoe in 205? I don't know. What's 205?
Hey, that didn't stop Beans McDouglas from checking in, listening, watching for the first time. So shout out to you. Thanks for joining us. Make sure you click that subscribe, smash the bell as well so you get notified when we go live in the future. But yeah, those happen, Rod.
Yeah, well, I've woken up in the morning and write an entire article that was not the article I was supposed to write. So
I just want to give you props for waking up in the morning and writing an article, because I will stay up late at night and write the article into past my bedtime. But I don't know if I'm getting up early to write an article.
I find that it's so much easier because it's quiet. There's nothing going on. Like I literally can just sit and at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Old manness coming out. He's got a cup of coffee. He's yelling at the school kids to stay off his lawn and writing his article.
shake my fist at the sun. Like, that's all the stuff that happens. I love every single bit of that. And there's a lot of folks out there that share that same passion, and you can find everything that you want and more on our SGPN app. Not only is this show available, but college football, there's some stuff going on with college football. I don't know. Something happened earlier today. Some other team beat some other team, but if you want to hear people talk about college football, basketball, football, everything that's going on, just download the SGPN app. All of our picks and podcasts are one place, and it's completely free. I know you blow all of your wad out there on Christmas trying to spend for all your friends and family. That's okay. SGPN app is free. Doesn't cost you a dime. Make that your Christmas present to yourself. Type in SGPN in the App Store and unwrap your gift. All right. Well, then, Cody, we talked about the fact that we've really, again, you can kind of use this as a supplement, or if you have yet to listen to our championship odds, our win total odds, and you're listening to this first, kind of think of it as your preface to this as we start to talk down a lot of these driver changes. And as I alluded to before, there's a lot of driver changes and some pretty significant changes on these teams too, with the dissolution of the Haas team, right? Now it's a Haas factory. And then, of course, SHR famously going away and giving their charters away. So there's a lot of big pieces that haven't been there over the last couple of seasons that have made this season in particular, I feel like a more of a snow globe shakeup than in other seasons.
Yeah, we've definitely had a few big changes over the past couple of years, right? Like a Kyle Busch leaving and Ty Gibbs coming into Joe Gibbs and stuff like that. But yeah, this season it seems like there's a lot more moving parts and pieces as far as pretty big name drivers, whether it's Truex retiring again, going back to that one, and yeah, a lot of moving parts. Some SHR obviously, as we mentioned, has gone away. Haas Automation's still there, but basically a new team. 3 of those charters have been pushed out to teams that are younger or building in the front row case, expanding to extra teams, bringing new people in. So yeah, I'm pretty excited to go through it.
Yeah, and again, it's just a matter of knowing what these drivers are capable of and kind of putting that in perspective as you start to build your betting cards. So, well, Cody, I feel like we should just start at where there's nothing changed, right? And that's Hendrick Motorsport. We'll go team by team, kind of talk through this. No driver changes in this one. Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, William Byron, Alex Bowman sticking around. So that's a solid stable. That's not going anywhere. And go forward with that as you will.
Yeah, not much to talk about there. Obviously, there was some rumors about Alex Bowman and all that, but yeah, this is their core lineup they've had locked down for a couple of years, and I think that they would like to keep it this way, kind of going forward for the next few seasons as well. Alex Bowman, I think, is always going to get the questions and the rumors as to possibly being replaced, but yeah, Hendrick Motorsports lineup stays the same, and something to be said for consistency. And look, it's a pretty strong lineup. As much as you maybe want to hate on Bowman or clown on him at times, he still had a win last season. And he's been our favorite top 10 bet throughout the past couple of years because he is a very consistent driver and gets things done. 4 wins a couple seasons ago. So yeah, Hendrick Motorsports just kind of staying the same, which is not a bad thing for a team that's already near the top.
It is not indeed. So let's get to one where there will be a change, and that is RFK Racing. And I know you, my friend, are ridiculously high on this entire team next season, so much so that you crowned all 3 of them champions. The first time NASCAR will ever have a 3-way championship.
First 3-time champion. No, only 2. Priest isn't going to win it this year, but Buscher and Keselowski will split. It's going to be like the split national championships in college football that are stupid. And
the AP poll names Chris Buescher, and the coaches poll puts Brad Keselowski in the winning. So, no, all right. So RFK, obviously the 2 mainstays are going to be there. Brad Keselowski, Chris Buescher, they stay in the 6 and the 17. But the big change here is that it expands to a 3-car team. The 60 car, which is coming by way of Rick Ware Racing, that charter is going to put Ryan Preece in there. The last domino, Cody, of that SHR train to fall.
Yeah, and Adrian checking in once again. He was very active in the chat for the Indy episode, so we appreciate that. Cody and his RFK, LOL, all 3 in the championship 4. Yeah, I mean, really the question is who's the 4th driver going to be in the championship 4, Rod? Okay, maybe not, but I am very, very excited for both Keselowski and Buescher. But Preece is the guy we're going to be talking about today. getting that 60 car, that's again, if you don't know the history of the 60 car in Xfinity for Roush Racing, very, very historic number there. So bringing that back as their third full-time car in the Cup Series this time, I think is great. They are leasing this charter from Rick Ware Racing, so we'll talk about how that affects Rick Ware Racing later on as well. But Ryan Preece, this is one where I'm cautiously optimistic, I guess you could say, because this is the best chance that Ryan Preece has had, and we've seen him take advantage of opportunities. So, he kind of came up quickly before, got in with JTG Doherty when they had two cars. So driver, he did all right, whatever, right? Then he kind of loses that ride as they go back down to one team and bounces around. And that was the year we saw him in Joe Gibbs Racing cars in Xfinity. And who was he racing for in the trucks? I don't remember if he was he with Tricon maybe at that point, whoever it was, and he won, like we saw, the talent, right? He comes out, he wins Xfinity races, he wins truck races, he's running really well, and you're like, oh man, this guy, like, he is talented. This is why he was a Cup driver, right? Then he comes back to SHR. That was kind of a point of debate. You heard that Gene wanted to keep Cole Custer, Tony wanted Preece, Tony wins, you get Preece in there, he gets 2 seasons, but were they really 2 seasons where he had a true shot? Because, well, the writing was sort of on the wall, and SHR was closing, and last year was a lame duck season for SHR as they were selling off the charters and disbanding. So you haven't really seen him get a true shot. Now, RFK on the come up, on the rise. I'm very excited for both Keselowski and Buescher. Vegas has their win totals at 1.5 races apiece, so they're expecting some wins from the team. No win total for Preece. But what can he do? Do I expect him to win a race? No, probably not. Super Speedway, he could. But outside of that, I don't think he's going to win. As far as betting on him, I think short flats are going to be where we're going to be able to target him. But this is going to be a true test for what does Preece have, and can he be a Cup Series driver going forward? Of course, expanding to a third car for the team is going to be questions too. How do they handle having an additional car, additional crew chief, all of that stuff? It was DGR at the time, David Gilliland Racing, now called Tricon. Thank you for that, Adrian. And his question too, can Preece make the playoffs if the others do as well? I think that a playoff run would probably be an over expectation season for Preece. I don't expect him to be a playoff driver.
I am more in the market of top 10s for him on a week-to-week basis, because if you look back at his career overall, obviously still searching for that first Cup win, but he's only got 4 top 5 finishes in 7 years. Granted, again, this is not the same equipment that he's going to be driving in now, right? This is not the Keselowski RFK type equipment, but he was in pretty decent SHR equipment last year and only got 5 top 10 finishes overall on the season. So I think what this does is this doesn't really put him in the week-to-week win conversations, kind of like what you said. I think this is more of we'll look at the track, we'll look and see if a top 10 makes sense for him and if the number is good enough for it.
Yeah, I think that he's going to be a guy that you can sneakily, in certain spots where he's good at specific tracks, jump on a top 10 at a bigger number and have the opportunity to cash it. And I think that's what we're going to be looking for. I don't expect him to make the playoffs. I think the only way he would make the playoffs is by randomly winning a super speedway race during the regular season. I don't think he's going to point his way in by any means. Part of him coming over, and maybe one of the reasons he got the ride, the partnership he had with Kroger, that comes over to the team. That does bring a lot of fucking money to the team, which I think is going to be helpful for everyone overall. But yeah, I have high expectations for RFK, but I'm much more tempered when it comes to Preece. And I think that we're not going to see immediately just competing for wins, I don't think, by any means. But yeah, again, I think it'll be a longer shot at some top 10s here and there is what we'll really be looking at from a betting perspective.
And honestly, it's the reason why we did an episode like this, because Preece, we glossed over when we talked about Keselowski and Buescher in the win totals and the championship odds, but we never really dug into Preece as to how we really do expect him to pull out.
Yeah, Preece isn't set on the win total, so we didn't really have a full conversation about him. The championship odds, we talked about everyone to a certain point, but at some point, Ryan Preece doesn't have a shot to win the title, right? If we're going to be completely honest, he's not winning the championship. He'll be lucky if he even makes the playoffs. that would be quite a massive thing for him to accomplish. So we didn't really spend much time on him, but that's why this episode is nice, because we can spend more time looking at Ryan Preece and who he is.
Yeah, indeed. So, all right. Speaking of looking at other drivers, we'll continue to look at other drivers, but I want to do that on the other side of this when I tell you about Underdog Pick'em. Underdog Pick'em and Underdog Fantasy is one of the biggest menus for all of sports. You can win up to 1,000 times your money with Underdog Streaks. Underdog always making it easier to win with profit boots and gimme pick'ems. Boosts, not boots. You can get profit boots, I'm sure. I don't know where they sell those, but if you can find them, let me know, and we'll buy them together. But you can use profit boosts on all of your flex entries. Going to be using mine on the higher than a half of a receiving touchdown for Davante Adams this week. I know the Jets are the Jets, and they're going to jet, but Aaron Rodgers is one touchdown pass away from his 500th career passing touchdown. You got to believe that he is going to pepper Davante Adams with targets, and that is going to be the recipient of his 500th touchdown. So that's going to happen. Make sure you take the higher than a half a touchdown. There's also NFL. There's college football. There's college basketball, MMA, NBA, obviously NASCAR, Formula One, so much more. Sign up with our promo code RACESGPN to claim your special pick and first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. It's UnderdogFantasy.com. Promo code RACESGPN. Where do you want to go next? Which team do you want to look at? Because I picked RFK. I feel like maybe Trackhouse could be a natural progression from that, kind of a lower end team.
It's been decided.
Sweet. All right, here we go. So Trackhouse Racing, obviously Ross Chastain, Watermelon Man staying put. Daniel Suarez one more time with Mi Amigos going to be in that one. But the big change here, SHR dishing out another charter to Trackhouse Racing. The number 88 makes its way into the rotation for them, driven by
SVG. This is probably the one that people want to talk about the most, Rod. It's been a very controversial topic. How will SVG do in his rookie season? Oh, there's TK. It's like sometimes these guys are just waiting in their wings for the right spot. He comes in with the SVG chant. Of course, big SVG fan from down under there. SVG, I think, is probably one of the most I guess interesting and curious guys that's coming in full time to the Cup Series. Of course, if you don't know, comes in 2 seasons ago, Supercars champion, racing down under, driving those cars, comes in to run the first inaugural Chicago street race and wins. And everybody's like, holy shit, first start ever. He hadn't raced in Xfinity or trucks. He just jumped into the Cup car and kicked everybody's ass really in that race. And it was like, whoa, who is this guy? Well, now he's parlayed that into a full-time ride last season in Xfinity with Colleague, where he had a good year, won 3 races, I believe, on road courses, and made it to the round of 8, I think it was, over there. And then now, obviously, he is moving up into the Cup Series with Trackhouse Racing. So this is one of those SHR charters. SHR, goes away, sold their charter to Trackhouse, and he's going to be in the 88 car. A number we really haven't seen. I guess Alex Bowman drove it a little bit after Dale Jr. left before he was put into to Jimmy Johnson's number. Boy, just throwing all the big expectations on Bowman there. But bringing the 88 car back. So now the big question is, right, like a lot of the big names you'll hear out there, oh, he's a lock to make the playoffs. He's going to win races. That's what where I get sort of like hesitant. And look, I'll be the first to admit it. Going into last season, I was not super high on him in the Xfinity series. I didn't think that we would see it right away, and we did. He really just kicked everybody's ass in the road courses. And can he do that in the Cup Series? That was the question, Rob.
Well, okay, and this is where it gets hairy, especially for SVG fans, because first of all, hi, my wife, and hi to Laura and Jeff. Our friends are visiting from out of town, and
hi,
they've
Laura
been
and Jeff.
Yeah, they always.
Thanks for loaning Rod to me for a little bit.
What does Rod do on a day-to-day basis? This is it. This is what I do. No, but this is where it gets hairy for SVG fans, right? Because it's easy to sneak up on people when they don't know what you're fully capable of, right? I mean, it's easy to surprise, and that's why I think when you have a guy like SVG who comes in, he wins Chicago, and everybody's like, "Ooh, who's the new toy?" Right? And then it's like watching film on people. You watch enough film, you say, okay, well, I know what this guy can do, right? And then now I know how to defend against him, right? It's no longer a secret what you're capable of. So that's why last season, yeah, he kicked everyone's ass in the road courses, but again, that's where his strength is, and it's at the Xfinity Series. You know what I'm saying? It's not, he didn't come up and do it in the Cup Series. He didn't kick anybody's ass in the Cup Series where people thought that success, and we fell prey to it a couple of times where we thought, okay, maybe I did. Okay, let's be completely honest. I did a couple of times. I drank the Kool-Aid, but you can't sneak up anymore. And so this will be the year, Cody, and this will be him being a Trackhouse Equipment. Which, can you say it's as equal as Colleague?
It's definitely an upgrade from Colleague,
right?
I think there's not really much of a question about that. And so there's so many things to weigh with SVG that you can't just look at it and compare it to anyone else and be like, look, rookies don't come in and just win, because they don't, but he's also a sort of a special rookie, right? And I guess some of the things to look at lately, Ty Gibbs, right? And Ty Gibbs comes into the Xfinity Series, he wins his first career start, then his first full-time season, he wins the championship, comes to the Cup Series, and you're like, oh, here we go, right? Now we're almost 100 starts in, and he doesn't have a Cup Series win.
Sophomore slump.
His sophomore slump's over, right? He's getting the first win this season. But and we just talked Xfinity Series championship odds in the last couple of weeks, and we talked about how we're very big on Connor Zilic. He could come in, destroy the series, win the championship. But then when it comes to the Cup Series, we always talk about rookies do not win the title. They never have. They probably never will. They struggle to win races. They struggle to do much of anything else. But how much of a true rookie is SVG? Because he's, 35, 36. He's not a 22-year-old kid like we usually see.
He's like that one kid on that movie. I think it was Not Another Teen Movie, where it's this old person pretending to be a high schooler, and you could tell she's like 70 years old. Yeah, right. And she's like trying to act like a teenager, and that's what SVG is.
Yeah, and so that's where it's like, okay, so he's not really that traditional true rookie. He does have a lot of experience in very similar cars to this, but this is the Cup Series, and he comes in, he wins Chicago in that first start, extremely impressive, but that wasn't necessarily him coming in on these guys' turf. It was more of meeting in the middle. It was his type of driving. We hadn't done a street course really ever, and so like everything sort of aligned. Then you come in, and he's made some other starts in the Cup Series and had some pedestrian runs, but then almost wins Watkins Glen, and Chris Buescher just got him on a mistake, really, and was able to beat him. But you saw at Watkins Glen what he was capable of. So that's where it's so tough to know what you're going to get and which parts are going to come up. I think, and I know a lot of you SVG stands think he's going to be really good on ovals. He's going to struggle on the ovals, I think, because this is not the Xfinity Series where there's only 10, 12 competitive guys. There are 36 chartered cars, and there are 34 and a half competitive drivers in this series. So it's just, that's where the hard balance is. But he's going to struggle on the ovals. But can he win on the road courses? Absolutely. Now, one thing I think that really plays into his favor, they're going to the, I'll let you try to say the name if you want to come up with a track name there, Rod, but I'm just going to call it Mexico. They're going to Mexico for the first time. The Autodrome Hermanos Rodriguez. Look at that. It's, whatever. But
good job. Duolingo is paying off.
Yes, I've been working really hard here. But I think that is going to be a place, because the Cup Series guys, a few of them I think went back there in Xfinity back in the day, but really it's a new place. That's going to play big into an advantage for SVG. The problem with betting, circling back around to betting, he's going to be favorited at most of the road courses, and it's going to be hard to bet on him at the price you're going to get. Outside of that, it's going to be interesting. He's going to be an interesting super speedway guy, because we saw some glimpses, at last season in Xfinity. Maybe, and he did run some Cup Series ones actually as well. Maybe you can get on him there. He's going to be a tough guy overall to really bet on, though. And I'm just like, I don't want to come off as a hater, because I'm definitely not. I love SVG, and I think that he's, what he's going to be capable of over the next couple seasons, I think is going to be really great. It's just so hard to come in and win. But that being said, if anybody can do it, he's probably the guy. So that's why it's so tough to figure out where SVG lands in the grand scheme of things.
I think for me, I'm targeting him in groups. I'm targeting him in like maybe top manufacturers every once in a while on road courses. Like that, I'm targeting him in that area because, like you said, the numbers to win on road courses especially going to be so high. So I'll take a look at a couple of ovals, here and there, and look and see what groups he's put in, because if he's put in a decent enough group, I may take a stab at him, especially because he may be longer odds.
There's going to be places like Martinsville, I think is going to be a good example. It's the most comparable oval track to a road course because of the braking. He actually ran there well in Xfinity. Maybe the books don't pay attention to that enough. Top 10 bet's going to be great for him there. Have that opportunity. There's going to be spots, and it's really going to be we're going to have to watch him and see what happens and what gets done. And Adrian as well asking about the new layout for SVG at Coda. I don't know. I mean, it's going to be different because they've not run that layout before, but they've still run all the parts of the layout. So everybody still has advantages and disadvantages, I guess, to that. So, but as far as adapting to a new layout, he's probably got the biggest advantage because he's done the most road course racing maybe of anybody besides AJ, I guess. So, and then real quick too is saying Byron Elliott, Bowman, Larson, Blaney, Truex all took 3 years to get their first win. This is the year of Tyrone Gibbs can get it done. If he can get it done, there is no if about it. I'm going to be like Mel Kiper Jr. right here. If Ty Gibbs doesn't get a win in the Cup Series, Rod, I will quit this show because he absolutely is winning in the Cup Series.
I believe in it too, but I will say the applications are now open just in case this doesn't happen. You can replace Cody on the NASCAR Gambling Podcast. Just find it on Twitter at RJ Gomez. I'm just kidding. Never. I don't care. I don't care if Tyrone Gibbs loses and finishes dead last in every single race. You will never be replaced on this show, Cody. All right, we'll talk down some more driver changes, but first I would like to tell you about MyBookie. We're brought to you by MyBookie.ag. MyBookie has been running on SGPN for years and years and years and years and years. You can check out their brand new and improved website, which, by the way, looks fantastic on your mobile phone. So put it down, though. You're listening to us. You can get on that later. Plus, there's props for every game and the live dealer casino. There's even new early cash out options for you. Taking a look at Saturday here on the listen, it's going to be put out on Saturday. So let's look a little bit farther ahead, shall we? Let's look to the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles happening soon. The Eagles are 7.5-point favorites at -110 over on MyBookie. Probably should take that because the Dallas Cowboys have been hot garbage and the Eagles have been trouncing everybody that they can get their hands on. So I would grab that. Philadelphia Eagles -110 and -7.5 over there on MyBookie. I just also want to get in good with Sean because, anytime you can mention the Eagles, Sean loves it. So head to mybookie.ag, promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit match up to $1,000 plus a $10 casino chip. That's mybookie.ag, promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. SGPN's proud partner, Rhythm, is the #1 AI-powered sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions for betting on money lines, spreads, totals, and props. Build your own model, copy one of the top performing models from the leaderboard, or have Rhythm build a model for you. Now you can track props also in the Rhythm app as well. NFL picks, NFL props, college football, college basketball, NBA. Rhythm has it all. I built a model before the Christmas game to figure out how many rushing yards I should take the Lamar Jackson. I mean, granted, it was probably an easy over anyways, but I just needed Rhythm to back me up on it. Whew, I got to tell you, Lamar Jackson, not only did he make it possible for me to at least draw even in my fantasy matchup, but probably won a ton of money for a lot of people, including myself, with the Rhythm app. So make sure you get that. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. Which, by the way, I am in a fantasy league, an auction league, with the host of the Old Fashioned Football Podcast, Justin, and Miranda, both of them. But I am in the championship game against Justin. So by the by, Cody, that means that I automatically get the whiskey because the hosts of the show do not get the grand prize, which is a Keeper's Heart whiskey, which I'm highly anticipating. But yeah, I get a chance to win this thing. My first auction leagues.
Congrats to you on that. Your wife celebrating in the chat there. Alcohol, she says, which is always a great thing, right? But yeah, I won that league last year and got my nice bottle of Keeper's Heart. So excited for you. You've already locked that up, right? Now you just get the fun of beating Justin. So hopefully you can do that.
Hey, Lamar made some strides to actually make that possible. But
having Lamar will help you, especially with all the games we've had so far this weekend.
How glad am I though that I put Pacheco on the bench? I knew I was going to do it, but like once I did it and he put up like 2 points on the day, I was like, let's go.
Good call.
All right. Let's move down to, I want to go to college racing because there's a little bit of a driver shakeup.
Wow, shocking. Rod wants to talk about AJ Allmendinger. I'm so surprised.
Shut your mouth. Well, so I want to go to college and then we'll talk about Gibbs and then we'll close the show, this portion of the show, and we'll come back later for more. But yeah, college racing, obviously AJ Allmendinger going to be taking over the 16 full time, coming up from Xfinity, where look, here's the thing about AJ Allmendinger. Okay, you guys know that I absolutely love me some AJ Allmendinger. I'm a huge fan of his passion, of his temperament, because he reminds me a lot of myself in that. But the thing is, when you take a step down and you go to a lower level, right? Like it's like a baseball player needing to go down to the AAA team for a little bit to kind of find his swing again, right? Or quite possibly find his pitch again. That's kind of what they did with AJ Allmendinger. He got heated the season before last, and they were like, all right, listen, hey, let's take you down to Xfinity. You take a big deep breath, kind of get your bearings back, and we'll if you do well enough, we'll bring you back. Well, that's what happened, and they brought him back. But now the thing is, Cody, with AJ Allmendinger, is he ready for round 2 again in the Big Cup Series?
This is such an interesting thing because AJ Allmendinger, we had this conversation in 2023. Things weren't going too well in the Cup Series, and we thought and talked about on the show, he doesn't really look like he's having fun anymore. And you could kind of see it was just like the fun wasn't there for him. And you hated to see that, especially knowing how much of a fiery competitor he is. Now you go back to the Xfinity series. I wouldn't say he had a super great season though. And that's sort of the thing. And then Colleague just sort of he's like that guy that you bring in that can do any of the jobs, right? And so it just sort of depends which opening we have right now. Let's slide you into the manager role for a bit because we don't have a manager. Okay, well, we got this manager, so we're going to put you back to assistant, but you're also sometimes the manager, right? So it's still cool, dude. And then well, that guy left, and so hey, we need you to be the manager again. You want to be the manager for a bit? That's cool, right? And he's a team player, so he does it, but it just feels like they sort of move him around based on what they need. It's almost like he's in the military, Rod. You know how that is, right?
I was gonna say, I feel seen. I feel seen.
We always called it needs of the Navy, right?
Yes.
And wherever the Navy needed to, that's where you were gonna go. And for AJ, it's the needs of Colleague, and wherever they need him, that's where he's gonna go. So yeah, I'm interested. And Adrian checking in too, saying he's gonna grab a super speedway win this season. If you haven't bet him for the Daytona 500 yet, do it. I will be all over him for that. But he has a feeling he's going to grab his first oval win in the Cup. If it's going to be an oval win, I think it's going to have to be a super speedway because I don't know that he's going to win an oval outside of that. Now, when it comes to road courses, he's definitely sort of fallen off a little bit from what we expected before. But that being said, he still had some good runs, a couple 6th place finishes last year at both. He finished 6th at the Roval and at Coda. Also had 6th place finish in the 500, as I just mentioned, being good there. Also, he got an 8th place finish at Homestead, just part-time in that car that he's coming back to. 11th at Nashville. He actually finished 6th at Sonoma as well. Wow. He had a thing for 6th place finishes last year, I guess, Rod, on road course. So there's that. But yeah, I'll be very interested. If we think SVG is going to come in and win these races, do we think, I guess I would give SVG a better chance to win a race at this point than I think I would to AJ, even though AJ's the greatest Xfinity Series road course racer in history, right? He's got more wins than anybody. But SVG kind of came in and slapped him around last year. So he's in lesser equipment than SVG. We're going to have our spots to bet on him, which is great. He's going to be a guy we'll talk about consistently throughout the year. He's always going to be a longer shot top 10. We'll probably be on that quite a bit, especially when it comes to super speedways. Road courses, he's going to get more respect because he always does. Probably be a little harder to bet there. I don't really know what my expectations are for him coming back to this team. And it just feels like as we get into talking about his teammate for using the hashtag chasing trophies, that maybe that's not really what they're doing, Rod.
No, and again, you talked about going down and not having that head turning of an Xfinity series. I mean, he only picked up one win when he's been a 5-race winner in 2 seasons in the Xfinity series, 7 top 5s, 18 top 10s. I mean, those weren't career numbers in the Xfinity series.
Back to the conversation we had last week when we were talking about Chandler Smith taking over that ride. He did make the Final Four, Rod. So, it's like a not great season, but yet, especially for colleague expectations, really, it was a pretty solid season.
Yeah, I mean, it was decent enough. So, all right, enough about AJ, even though I could talk forever and a day. The 31 car no longer going to be the 31 car. It will be the 10 car, and the occupant of that one will be young Ty Dillon.
Yeah, that's going to take some getting used to. Ty Dillon, Rod, actually really excites me going into this ride. In 6 races in 2025, 2 at Daytona, 2 at Talladega, 2 at Atlanta. Outside of that, we probably will never talk about him. If you're in one of those NASCAR fantasy leagues where you have to select the last place finisher, I think I'm in a couple like that. Ty Dillon's probably going to be a guy you're going to want to pick a lot in that. Ty Dillon's a super cool dude. He had a podcast for a little while. I was sort of sad that he stopped doing it because I thought it was a really good one. Very like heartfelt guy, like sort of wears his emotions on his sleeve type of guy. Not in the way that AJ does. AJ's like fiery about it. Ty's more of like reflective about it, I guess, or whatever. I actually got to meet him when he drove the Twisted Tea 13 car. We sell Twisted Tea at my day job. Got to meet the guy. Super cool dude. Stood there, talked to us forever. It was great. It was exciting. He's been around a while, right? Obviously, if you don't know, the brother of Austin Dillon, grandson of Richard Childress. And had success in the truck series more specifically than anything. Just hasn't panned out in these bigger series. He obviously has some money with them. Engine deal, I think, is part of him getting this ride. They're getting cheaper engines from ECR. But to have really any expectations is going to be hard. He is a very good super speedway racer, so absolutely we'll be betting him at Daytona. We'll be betting him at probably all of the super speedways, top 5s, top 10s. To win, I guess if you're really looking for a crazy long shot, maybe if you're doing Phil's shotgun unit type of bet. But outside of that, I don't really think there's anywhere else where we're going to be having a conversation about Ty Dillon when it comes to betting on him throughout the entire rest of the season.
No, and if I would probably set the over under on how many times I personally say his name, maybe 3.5, and I think you could probably take the under and be.
And that's going to be 3 of the times that I bring him up, and then one time he's going to be like, "Oh, he got in somebody's way and it pissed you off."
That's
how the over's going to hit.
Never mind. Yeah, I won't juice the over too much because I don't want to lose my ass when that happens. So, yeah, definitely. I don't know
Yeah, like I think if you were to rank, so currently we're at 34 officially announced drivers for these charter cars, with the assumption that Zane Smith drives a 38. I think we'll talk about that as we go through this, and that Corey LaJoie drives a 51 for Rickware Racing, or was he in the 50? Yeah, he was the 51. But I think if you stacked up the 36 assumed drivers and listed them out in order, it would be hard to argue Ty Dillon being 35th on the list of 36. I think that he would probably be in almost everyone's list at 36th. And that's just somebody has to, what do they call the last guy who graduates medical school? A doctor, right?
A doctor.
He's a Cup Series driver, so props to him, but that's really sort of all there is to it.
Yep. I mean, it's the same thing. What happens when you get drafted last in the NFL? Well, you're still in the NFL until you get
still
cut.
an NFL player,
or unless you're Brock Purdy. But all right, let's move to the last team that we'll talk about today, and then we'll go through the rest of these later on down the road. And that is, of course, our cover guy, Chase Briscoe, moving to JGR to occupy the 19 vacated by one Martin Truex Jr., who has been retired much longer than his ride insists. But look, the other remaining lineup is the same, right? It's Denny Hamlin, it's Christopher Bell, it's Ty Gibbs. We've talked at length about all three of them because all three of them, in our opinion, will be race winners next year. They will be championship contenders, at least a couple of them next year. And really that leaves kind of Chase Briscoe as okay, bud, you are now in the big boys seat. What will you do? I mean, we know that he was a guy that we talked a lot about last season on short flats. We talked a lot about him in the top 5 conversations, the top 10 conversations, but now he's driving in a car that's capable of winning multiple races and a championship. So do we expect that from Chase Briscoe this coming season?
Yeah, this is another one that's pretty interesting. Obviously, this is the biggest move, right? Like you look at NASCAR and we often talk, it's Hendrick, it's JGR. I think you sort of have to put Penske in that conversation now. They've won 3 titles in a row. But it's Hendrick, it's JGR, it's Penske. They're the top teams, right? And so moving a guy, whoever that is, from wherever they come from, into one of those seats that's been driven by future Hall of Famer and former champion Martin Truex Jr., that comes with expectations. That comes with you should be pretty good to go into that seat. And we've definitely seen flashes from Briscoe, inconsistent over the years, I would say. He's with SHR for a few seasons. We saw that win at Phoenix. That's his only win, I think, to this point.
He's got one other win as well.
Where else did he win?
The 2022 win back in man, where are we at? Back in Phoenix.
Where else the Phoenix. Where else did he win though? The Phoenix.
Oh, Phoenix, and then last year he won a race as well. Remember?
He won. Yeah, Darlington. That's right.
Darlington,
and that got him into the playoffs. Like, how could I forget about that, Rod?
You're old just like me.
Yes. So, I think to Adrian's point here, Briscoe has round of 8 experience in SHR equipment. Should make the round of 12 at least. Perhaps a long shot for the championship 4. Nearly made that round in his rookie year, 10 laps from a dub at Martinsville. And then, he was bringing up the Southern 500 as 181. I think that we've definitely seen the glimpses and the possibilities from Briscoe because as Adrian mentioned, he's gotten close to the Final Four before, and he's a really good short flat track guy. He's a guy that it's like an Eric Almirola. We bring him up every single time. Second place in New Hampshire this past season. Case in point, right? Short flat track. Now the championship race is at Phoenix. I think that excites a lot of people if you can find a way to get there. Martinsville being in the round of 8. You find your way into that Final Four. Phoenix should be good there. Oh, by the way, Gibbs' car is pretty good at short flats in a general sense too. Truex was always good at those race tracks. Also, Bell has been extremely good at those tracks. The biggest question I think is week to week, is he a contender to win? Now, we didn't see it from Truex last season in 2024. Had good runs, right? But in 2023, he won, I believe, multiple races. So he was competitive and he was in the mix. Obviously, maybe sort of the age thing got to him. I think maybe we don't give enough credit to Sherry Pollock's passing as far as how that maybe could have affected Martin. I know that they were no longer together, but they were together a long time in his foundation. And maybe all of that played some part in something as well. But there's going to be high expectations with this team. So this is another one that's it's so interesting because it could go multiple ways. I know our guy, Rowdy over in the Discord is very high on Briscoe this year. He thinks he's going to be really good. And I think that potential is there. Does it happen immediately? Last time I checked, James Small still the crew chief. I am not a James Small fan. If you've ever listened to this show, I think he really holds that team back, and I think that could be a problem for Briscoe. Also, maybe he and Briscoe click better than Small and Truex did, and that's not a problem. But I'm very interested to see what happens to Briscoe in 2025.
So you look back at the 2023 season, like you were talking about, Truex does win 3 races. He has 9 top 5, 17 top 10s. So again, this car capable, obviously we know the teammates around him could elevate him as well. But again, I mean, you look at the 2022 season for Chase Briscoe in the Xfinity. He had 9 wins that year, right? He completely dominated.
I forgot how good he was in that 98 car. Man.
16 top 5s, 22 top 10s in 33 races. Like, he killed everybody and did not win the championship that year, right? He finished 4th in the rankings. So, like, can he win races? Yeah, he can win races in good equipment. So the test now, as we talked about, is just can he turn it up to the notch that JGR is. I think we will look at him for some wins. I think there are tracks in which we can look for him to win because I don't think it's far-fetched to think that he can take this equipment and end up winning in it at least once, if not twice, next year. Because again, you look at some of the SHR finishes that he had. He only had 3 top 5 finishes, but a 6th place at Watkins Glen, an 8th place at Bristol, a 2nd place at Loudon, a 5th place at Darlington, a 6th at Texas, 9th at Phoenix. I mean, we're creeping up onto some pretty close finishes, right?
Yeah, and those are good runs for especially the lame duck team that was SHR, right? They knew that they weren't coming back. You had some people quit immediately once they found out. A lot of people stayed and ran it through, and obviously they get the win and break into the playoffs and had a decent run there, getting to the round of 12. And TK asking if he had any pit penalties last year. That was 30% of the issue with Truex. You're not wrong there. And Adrian Briscoe is a long shot for the championship, considering he won Phoenix before and his prowess on short flats like Gateway and Martinsville in the playoffs. Is 20-1 a long shot? I guess, not really. And that's the problem, is I don't think at that number that it's big
just
enough.
Not a long enough shot. It really isn't.
Yeah. I mean, you can Brad Keselowski at 30-1. Come on, Rod. You know how I feel about that.
That's what I'm saying. That's the one you'd pick over this Chase Briscoe.
Exactly. But yeah, what was his win total 1.5? Is that
I believe it was. Yeah. It's been a minute since that episode.
Yeah, it is 1.5, and it's plus 120 on the over. So the books think that he can win 2, but he probably wins 1. I would say that's fair. I think that he's going to have really good opportunities at, like Adrian mentioned, places like Phoenix, Gateway, Martinsville, New Hampshire. But also Christopher Bell is going to be really fucking good at those tracks too. But yeah, I think I'm very interested to kind of see. Another one that I'm, I guess, cautiously optimistic in a bigger sense than Priest. Like Priest, I'm optimistic that he can have a top 25 point season. That's my cautious optimism there. With Briscoe, I do think that there's the possibility, if we can make the playoffs, I think that it does set up well for him. Again, all of those short flat tracks being in the playoffs, Gateway being added there, Martinsville being in there. He's actually really good at Homestead's not in the playoffs anymore. Never mind. Just kidding about that. But
that can get him there, or at least help him get there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that it should be a pretty good year for Briscoe. I don't remember which way we went on the win total. And I think that I'm still sort of a little bit torn on that. But week to week contender, probably not. But is he going to have his spots where he looks pretty good? I think so.
Yeah, and I think obviously this is one where I don't bet a championship on him, like you said, because 20-1 is definitely not long enough for me. The season win total, I think we landed on the over because of the fact that it's still plus money at 2 wins, because that seems to me like a really good investment on it. So I'll take that. But by and large, yeah, this is Briscoe. It's going to be a week to week thing for Briscoe. We're going to have to look at him each and every week and kind of, and really honestly, for me, I'm taking like the first 4 weeks to sort of see where I'm at before I probably suggest.
Which is really the first 5-6 weeks, because we start out with Daytona and Atlanta again, and there's no you're not going to get, just a quick reminder as we come towards the season, you don't get any type of read from those places. So yeah, I think Bowman Gray could be an interesting spot. That's a short track. Could be an interesting first introduction to him in the 19 team, and maybe see what they're kind of coming out of the gates with. It's hard to measure a race like that, but there's some things that you could definitely pick up on from that.
But if he comes out swinging, I mean, none of us are really going to be all that surprised. But at the same time, I think if he comes out swinging and if he's a contender right out of the box, that's going to make a lot of people sort of flock to him, which is why I'm still going to pull back and say, I'm not going to overreact to this, because it's not really a true test.
there's a really strong possibility. As going back to his championship odds, we got him during the playoffs. We were betting him at 100-1 this past season. And I think that if you get to a point at some point where things aren't necessarily going great, he'll be a great guy to get if you can get him as a true long shot. I like that because of the way the playoffs set up, all the short flats there, and Phoenix being a place he's won and run extremely. We've cashed a lot of bets on him at Phoenix over the past couple of years. I think he lost out on it this fall, but had an incredible top 10 or top 5 streak going at Phoenix where he's been really good. So, he's definitely one to highlight. Let's keep an eye on his odds. Maybe Daytona, Atlanta don't go his way and he drops down to 40, 50-1. Now we're going to reconsider having a position on him because we know how strong the team is. We know how good he is, and those are his strengths. And that's really going to come into play, I think, later in the season is guys that are able to be strong on short flats.
Indeed. 4 of 6 top 10 finishes for Chase Briscoe at Phoenix, including that win and a 4th place finish in 2022. Definitely somebody to look at. And I think somebody we spent enough time on because that's the cover guy. I will say, though, I'll get back to Adrian's. He said, called it now exactly at Loudon. TK Loudon is what he was talking about. Bell, Briscoe, and Priest. That'll be an interesting race to play out as well. So if we get an exacta of
Bell,
exactly
Briscoe,
that,
Priest.
it's a pretty that's exacta too. That's for
give me a number on that. I'll send you some money right now. Get down on that. Let's go.
Yeah, that's time to start our book, I guess, right? Is what this is all about.
I like that.
Me too. All right. I like what we did. I think we need to do more of it. So we'll come back next week and cover some more of these driver changes.
We'll pick up right where we left off with this conversation.
Educating you in ways that most people won't even try. They'll just give you the picks and bounce. We stay and cuddle after we give you the picks. So, all right, Cody.
Your wife's watching this, right, Rod?
She is definitely watching this right now. So once again, hi to her, hi to Jeff, hi to Laura. Yeah, this is what I do. This is what I call work on a daily basis. But
that's right. It's a lot of fun. All right, Rod. Well, I hope everybody enjoys their weekend. A lot of football this weekend, which is great. Love that. So enjoy that. We're getting close, Rod. 51 days till the Daytona 500. That's 37 days until the Clash at Bowman Gray, something like that. That's not very good math, I don't think, because that's not right. 36 days maybe. But anyways, we're getting close. We're almost there. So yeah, in the meantime, Rod, follow me over on the X at Husker_Z. Find all my work there. Tons and tons and tons of football stuff. Some motorsports stuff as well. A bunch of articles still coming out for sportsgamblingpodcast.com. So make sure you check those out. Lots of other stuff in the works. So yeah, appreciate it. And again, hit that subscribe button, smash the bell. Join us next time we're live. And shout out to TK, Adrian, everybody in the chat today. We appreciate you guys. And we'll see you next week.
Indeed. Follow me on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. Link in the bio, everything I've got going on, whether it's here, whether it's Sportsbook Review. Got some prop articles coming out and some predictions coming out for this weekend's game, so you can find it there. And of course, steady stream of sports that you won't find on your normal television. Love all of that, so make sure you're checking out my page for all of those special links. All right, we'll see you guys next week. We'll continue this conversation as we dig deeper into each of the driver changes for the next season. So until then, everybody, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Hopefully you had a great and happy holiday season. Hope it continues this weekend. We'll see you then. Until then, let's go racing and let it ride.